I'm gonna make a steak sheet pan supper. And like everything involving steak, it is a huge hit on the ranch. And you won't believe how easy it is to throw together. I'm starting by cutting some big, thick rings of bell pepper. And I want the rings to be really thick so they can stand up against the big, juicy steaks. I'm using red and yellow, but you can do green, orange, purple, whatever color of bell pepper you can get your hands on. You don't want to do really thin rings because by the time the sheet pan supper is finished, they'll be a little bit soggy, and you want them to still have a little bit of crispness. All right, I'm going to put these onto the sheet pan, and the cool thing is these are going to kind of serve as a bed for the steak. So I'll get them on there, along with some big, thick slices of onion. Steak and onions to me are just a glorious combination. Okay, I think that's good. Now I've also got some cherry tomatoes, and I'm gonna scatter them just throughout the peppers and onions. All right, so the bed of veggies is all ready. So now I'm gonna add some steaks, and you guessed it, they're going right on top. I'm using boneless ribeyes. And then I'm gonna season the steaks with just a little bit of Montreal seasoning, which is just a prepared seasoning. It always has a really nice steakhouse flavor. It's got a great texture. And I like to sprinkle the seasoning on first, and then I'll drizzle on a little bit of olive oil. All right, now after the olive oil, I'm just gonna put a nice generous pat of butter on each steak. Now the sheet pan's gonna go into the oven. The broiler is nice and hot. So I'm gonna broil it on the first side until it's totally browned. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and my kitchen smells like a steakhouse already. Let's check out the first side of the steaks. Ooh, look at that sizzling steak. Oh, the butter really helps it brown a little bit quicker. So I'll turn the steaks over to the other side. You can see that they need some browning too. I'm gonna season the second side exactly the same way. Montreal seasoning, and then olive oil and butter. So simple. Now when you make this sheet pan supper, you wanna start with steaks that are on the thick side. If you have thin steaks, by the time the outside of the steak is browned, they'll be too overcooked. An overcooked steak is actually a felony in Osage County. So I try to avoid it at all costs. All right, second round of butter goes on. So the second side doesn't take as long. I'm gonna keep my eye on it, and I'll probably brown it for another 3 minutes. Oh my, look at those steaks, guys. Oh, so sizzly and perfect. The veggies are just the way I want them. All right, it's time to serve these up. You know, depending on the appetites in your house, you can call this a 4-person meal, or if you're like Lad and me and you love big, thick, juicy ribeyes, it's a dinner for 2. I like to serve up big piles of the veggies. The last thing to add to the plates, some crusty bread. The harder it is to tear, the better. I'll just add a big chunk to each plate. And I like to put the pan close by on the dinner table, and that way you can tear off little pieces of the bread and dip it in all these juices. All right, that's dinner for 2, 5 ingredients in less than 15 minutes.